So we've got a great conversation to be had today. Super, super excited. We've got Brock Fortner here, who's been a close friend of mine. We met, maybe 8, 9 months ago at this point. And we have great conversations. So I thought it would make the most sense to bring Brock in and chat through some stuff that we've always been engaging and chatting about, whether that's life, real estate, investing, planning, really all of it. So just super excited to jump on with Brock and talk today. I'm going to let Brock kind of give a little bit about his background and what he's been up to. And then we're just going to dive right into it and talk shop.
Nice. Thanks, Jim. Myself, let's see, the background, born and raised here in Nashville.
The unicorn.
The local boy. Been in the financial world for almost a decade, I would say, and have a couple of degrees in it that I don't use. I'm against most of the schooling out there.
Okay.
College.
All right. We're going to talk about that today.
Let's see what else. But yeah, I'm in the finance world. Mainly work with business owners, real estate investors, highly paid individuals, whether that's attorneys, high-ticket sales reps, doctors. I have a few entertainers in there. And
so you're seeing a lot of different industries that come through your door and helping them plan and invest and all that stuff. Who's your favorite person to work with?
Who's my favorite person to work with? I'd say under the age of 40, that's really a lifelong learner, a big dreamer, somebody who's going to question the status quo. What we talk about a lot is instead of getting on this race to 65, what if we built a life that we don't have to retire from and find what our purpose is in life so that when we live each day, we find joy in it.
Man, that sounds like $1 million question and answer. Tell me a little bit about, so you're talking about 65. I'm assuming you're talking and relating back to 401ks and retirement plans and all these kind of vessels and vehicles that we've been introduced from early on. And you kind of don't plan that for people, or you just kind of look at it differently. Tell me a little bit more about that, because I think for me in real estate, I'm a little bit similar to going against the grain of, everybody always says like, save up your money and buy your dream house. And I'm over here saying, buy any house you can and keep it forever because it's an investment.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about what you're talking about with wait till 65. And if I'm completely wrong as far as relating it to 401ks and stuff like that, then let me know as well. But based on our conversation, there seems to be different avenues and paths that you kind of push on to some of your clients and engage with.
Yeah. A lot of it comes back to the fact that when I say the race to 65, it is retirement. And if you look at the history of our financial world, retirement came into play when they were trying to get older workers out of the factories and saying, hey, here's your golden ticket at 65. We'll get you retired, right?
Okay.
And what's funny is I saw some statistic out there, but all of these statistics have changed except for the fact that you're supposed to retire at 65 with $1 million in the bank. Well, our median house price has gone up. Our incomes have gone up, but yet those figures don't change. Well, there becomes a point in time when if you're on this race to 65 just to have this large bank account number, you could be scrimping and saving and putting off life for one day, someday that might not even get there. And, a lot of people probably saw it right now where, you could be building up your entire life to age 65, and the day after you retire, market completely collapses.
What if you don't make it to 65?
You did all that scrimping and saving and cutting back for nothing. And so that always goes back to, how do we build a life that we don't have to retire from? And I think...
and live in the present, right?
And live in the present, yeah. And it's more, everybody wants to talk about we need to budget and we need to cut and save and this and that. Well, that breeds scarcity. And if we can learn how to be efficient with our dollars and how we use them and learn to expand our means so that we get into a better lifestyle and a more abundant lifestyle, then, it's not so much about, I need more money. It's more about, hey, I want to live life on my terms.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, I mean, I think so many people worried about, oh, let's save this dollar or let's save this penny, which if you don't need it, then don't use it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if it's something that provides happiness, if it's something that creates an experience, if it's something that brings people together, then why not
Mm-hmm.
do that because it brings happiness and it brings that present life, you know?
Yep.
And I'll give you a perfect example. I know I invited you over last week for a dinner party and you were at another dinner, but, you know, it's funny because real estate's slow right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've sold more houses in December than I have in January or coming up in February,
Right.
combined, and that's a reality, and I'm okay talking about that. But someone was asking me like, "Oh, real estate's slow, and shouldn't you be saving money? You're having a dinner party, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a dinner party is at my expense."
Yeah.
Right? It's $400 to have 12 people over,
Yep.
some alcohol, some food, some appetizers, right?
Yep.
Things like that. And I could have not spent that money and I could have saved that money.
Mm-hmm.
And that may have been a smart decision, but I wanted to live in the present. I wanted to engage with these people at my house. I wanted to bring friends together. I wanted to bring my friend and coach from North Carolina who was in town to meet folks like you who I appreciate, folks like Nick, my other buddy, Joe, people who came over that night.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think it makes sense to pull back on that stuff
Mm-hmm.
because it is me living in the present. It's me doing something I like, and it's me bringing people together, which warms my heart. So
Yeah.
instead of skimping on that or not spending that money to do that, well, I've just got to be more efficient in other ways because I really want to do that. And I really wanted to live in the present. And I really wanted to be around those people.
Yeah, and I think that goes a lot when talking about, and you said a lot there, but there's more entangled in than just scrimping and saving and giving up pleasures. It's more about, you know, I like when people talk about your net worth is your network. Well, if we are solely occupied on trying to just save all the dollars that we can get into one bucket so that we could be better off, well, instead, you could have brought those people over and they were abundant thinkers. So if you could have gotten into a room of where it was full of co-creators and collaborators, you probably could have made twice the money that was in it.
Yep.
Like right now, for example, there's me and I love investing in myself and education first. And it kind of throws a lot of people off. But recently I was just accepted into a mastermind where the average age is like 40. And they all are massive executives, or they've had a 7, 8, or 9 figure exit. And all they do is talk about investing, how to structure deals, how to walk through deals. And, I might not be able to partake in every single one of those investments, but being in a room where that education and that network and that collaboration with other people will probably take me far beyond if I were to go max out my 401k or do something crazy that, is
But
most
you're
people
setting
do.
yourself up for more opportunity,
Absolutely.
right? Because just because you may not invest in something in that room that day or that deal or that situation or that scenario doesn't mean that that bond is going to carry down the road, right?
Yeah.
That person that you talked through that and went through that and spent time with and grabbed lunch with after or grabbed a coffee with in between sessions, that could propel into a conversation, that could propel into an introduction 2 years, 5 years, 2 months, 15 years,
Yeah.
20 years, right? Like those conversations and those situations and scenarios are allowing you to potentially put yourself in a better position.
Mm-hmm.
And you investing now can equate to bigger gains in the future.
Yeah, and there's a lot of zooming in and zooming out on this type of money habits, money thoughts of what you could do, because somebody would tell you, oh, well, you shouldn't be spending money so you can save money and, back to the race of 65 so you can have this big nest egg. Well, if I can set aside this money and invest now, in the short term, yeah, I might not have as much money in my pocket. But in the long run, I'll probably have way more relationships and things that we could do.
100%. So, I was telling someone how much money I invested in myself last year, and they thought I was crazy. And my second question to them was, I think that, well, it was more of a statement. I was like, I think you're crazy.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, we can go back and forth on this, but are we equating a dollar figure that's making me crazy? Or are we equating what I thought I was going to learn and what I gained?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because those are two drastically different things.
Massively different.
Now, if I went into that and I spent 50 grand and feel like I didn't get 50 grand worth of things, that's a different conversation. But you also have to put into it what you want out of it, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
There's follow up, there's conversations, there's tactical connections, there's relationship building that is allowing me to grow from those meetings. And I just talked about it. My buddy Brock,
Yeah.
coach slash friend. I met him at one of these events. He stays at my house now when he comes to Tennessee to visit,
Yeah.
right? We get on a weekly mastermind Zoom call. So there's all these things that come from this investment and putting yourself in the right position or in the place for opportunity. And that opportunity can be measured differently, and that opportunity may never equate to an actual green piece of paper, but it can equate to multiple other beneficial things in your life.
Yeah, I think that when you're looking at investments, there's three investments, which are time, money, and change. Time and money. Money's the easiest part. All it is just moving $1 from one
Account to
bucket
another.
to another. Time, it's a little bit harder because you do have to put in the time. You have you just had your first kid.
Yep.
You have a wife that you have to tend to and share life with, and for somebody like me, it's kind of like, well, I'm not married, I don't have any kids, so like, I could go spend the time and do some stuff, but the hardest one is always change. And before I get to the next three, it's like most people go into these conversations with an attitude of, I'm going to disprove you and show you why you're wrong and I'm right. Whereas if they went into the conversation to say, hey, you know what? I don't know if you're right, but maybe we can figure out if this works for me. And if it does, it'll take me a lot further. And then, the other three parts are really that most people, when they see something, they only think, oh, that's the cost, right? It's going to cost me this much, and it's going to cost me this much to do that, or it's going to cost me this somewhere else. Well, there's really three parts to all investments, and that's price, cost, and then value. Most people go from cost to price to value. Well, if you switch that around and said, hey, I'm going to look at this from a value standpoint, and then a price, and then a cost, then it changes the entire atmosphere at which you look at something. And I always like Robert Kiyosaki is like, he always tells people, quit saying you can't afford it. Ask yourself how you can afford it.
Yeah.
Because just like I probably invest, I invest more into myself than most people make in salaries. And I think it's worth it because it continues to build me up. And even if I don't see it in a dollar figure, I see it in a mental figure.
Of course. And I think too, to your point, like where you talk about that cost and that value is, it may not be a 1-to-1 return.
Yep.
Right? So what is that value? And I'll give you an example. I may pay to be in a room with someone, and what they teach me in that 4 hours isn't worth $10,000. But because I'm in that room, now I have a connection with that person. I have leverage. I know more about them. They know more about me. I know more about what's important to them. I know more about what they like, what they don't like, because I'm building the relationship in that 4-hour boot camp, whatever you call it, masterminds, right? So it's funny because it took me until like 6 months ago to realize that paying to be in the room isn't going to be a 1-to-1 value on the education you get based on the course they're teaching you. Paying in the room is being able to build that relationship and leverage that to either provide value to that person or potentially obtain value from them in a different way, shape, or form.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And I think people miss out on that. Everybody's so 1-to-1 where it's like, okay, $10,000 to be in this room, $10,000 to spend time with this person. Am I getting $10,000 back tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
And if you go into those settings for personal development and spend time with coaches and mentors, if you think that's what's going to happen, you're never going to get the benefit of actually spending that $10,000.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's why so many people are turned off. In our world today, we want to hack for everything. We want it now. We want it immediate. And no one wants to put in the work.
Yeah.
And I find myself, I'm not talking shit. I find myself doing this, looking for the quick way, looking
Yeah.
for the hack,
It's part of life.
right? And I'm like, oh, I got this going on and this, and if I can just pay this person to solve this problem, and it's like there still needs to be leadership, even if you're paying someone to solve your problem.
Yep.
And that's a transaction in business, right? We exchange of dollars equate to problems being solved. But there still needs to be a commitment. There still needs to be leverage. There still needs to be involvement and leadership coming from you and your vision, even if you do stroke a check to someone.
Yep.
So why would we not do that on the other side of personal development?
Exactly. And I think that I'll share two things. First, I'll see if you remember it. But does money create money?
Does money create
Do
money?
you need money to create more money?
No.
No. It starts with value creation, right?
Yeah. Value creation in people.
Yeah.
You want more money, meet more people.
Exactly.
You want to help people, you'll make more money.
Yeah. And second thing that I was gonna talk about is like right now I'm taking 5 of my top clients through this book. It's called The Richest Man and The Richest Man Who Ever Lived. It's like a deep dive into Proverbs, and it's talking about one of the biggest things that you need to have if you want to grow wealth is being diligent, and that's not just hardworking; it's smart working, doing things efficiently the first time and getting it done right. Having an advisor of counsels, and one of the biggest roadblocks we will have is laziness, and that's just because it's who we are as humans. If we want the big lifestyle that most people talk about, we need to be diligent, and we can see it all over social media. Like you see people that you think shouldn't have it, and maybe they were diligent, so they will continue to have it. But if they weren't, it's very clear that those people lose that very quickly.
Totally. Yeah, it's interesting because we always hear the word like, oh, you don't need to be the smartest person in the room, right? And how'd that person get so successful? They weren't that intelligent, but they put in the work and they leveraged the relationships and they leveraged people for the areas that they weren't intelligent in, right?
Yep.
You can be the quarterback and never have to throw the ball.
Oh yeah.
But it's kudos to that person who put the people around them to be successful. And to your point, they put in the work.
Yep. That was being young and in the financial world. Yes, I am smart. I know a lot about a lot of things in a very deep level. But there are people like, dude, you're the Henry Ford, being so young in the financial world, because I know that I don't know everything. But when there's a question that's asked or there's some type of help that's needed, I know exactly who to call, and I can touch that button. Say, hey, we got this situation going on. I need your help. Can you help us out? And they'll come and they'll help us out. And being able to have those relationships goes a very long way.
Totally. So you talked about time. Let's kind of go back to that a little bit. Me personally transitioning from, single, no kids, not married, into married life and new baby and, big event coming up for impact, growing my real estate business, all that stuff. So similar to you, like I was everywhere and doing everything and didn't have those responsibilities. And now as we kind of go and move into that world, for me, one of the things that I struggle with and I'm trying to figure out right now is time and is efficiency. And you and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago where I was asking you, like, as in your profession, you probably get a bunch of people that want to meet with you and you have a niche character. So, part of what I've tried is asking people like, yeah, I'd love to meet and I'm excited to meet you. What would you like to meet about? That's been huge for me because at the end of the day, I was taking a lot of meetings where people just wanted everything from me. I didn't even know who they were. I didn't even get an opportunity to have a conversation and learn about them, right? And it was honestly just a huge energy suck and time waste for me.
Yeah.
So I think we as humans, and you helped me kind of break through this of like, it's awkward to ask someone, what do you want to meet about? But if I just be who I am, which is most of the time high energy and excited to meet people, it's still okay to ask that question afterwards. It's not like I'm a jerk, But the fact of the matter is it's so funny because all these people that message me on Facebook that I don't know, or Instagram and all these social platforms, and they ask me to meet, and then I ask them that question, I never hear from them again.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they know that they were just trying to have a meeting with me to sell me something,
Yeah.
and had no care in the world who I was or what I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you work with a lot of high profile clients, a lot of high, like you were saying, people making a lot of money. You're moving money around, you're planning, you're strategizing. How do you manage your time? I know you may have a little bit more than me right now, but
A
I
lot more.
mean, you're with high profile people, they probably demand specific time frames and when to meet and what they want. How do you kind of manage it and find time for yourself and, more importantly, your personal life?
Yeah, it's a big thing. I was taught early on that you put your personal life on the calendar first and then work. And I have a very strict, I would say, I don't know if policy would be the right word, but there are clients that I have that are clients, and then there are clients that I have that become friends.
Of course.
And so, like, I think it was last week, I had 5 clients in town for an event that they were going to. 6 clients in town. And, they invited me to go to dinner, and it was a great time. And if it was just a regular client that, you know, I might not be engaged with as much because they see me as just somebody that they have to meet with, I probably wouldn't have met with them.
Makes
But
sense.
with them being friends, it's the relationship is a lot more fun. So they all know I'm not going to talk to them after 5 o'clock unless we're doing dinner. They know I'm definitely not talking to them on the weekends, and almost never am I going to talk to them before probably 8 a.m. unless we're having coffee because they're in town. I'm an early riser. My morning time is important to me. So I'm usually up about 4:45, 5 o'clock. Me time. Nobody gets to really bother me until I'm.
It's the best time of the day, man. I'm
I
all
would,
about it.
yeah, I would say probably about 7:30. Except for Fridays, I have a one-on-one time with some buddies of mine. But it's me time, and I'm trying to push that to 9 o'clock because apparently everybody's telling me I need to start working out. So we're trying to figure that part out. But
I told Brock that he should start working out.
Yeah.
He's gonna feel better.
yeah. So I'm hearing
And
it
he's
from
like,
all
I
the
can't
people.
wake up earlier. And I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you because I can barely get up as early as I do.
Yeah, the way that I'm trying to figure it out is, maybe I wake up at 4:45 and do my regular devotion, run through my vision time, and then go to the gym. And when I come back, that's the time that I get to study and get better at my craft and read. So trying to work that out, but balance is a big thing in time, but not so much as balance as in like I need to have it even here, even here, even here. More of balance is in harmony and how can things play together. And yeah, you're right. Most of the time when somebody asks me to meet, I'm like, okay, what do you want to talk about? And you find out very quickly who actually wants to meet because there's something genuine that they want to learn. And then there's guys that just want to meet to pick your brain and probably get some value and
Or sell you something,
or say something. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I feel like that's majority of people that reach out to me lately has been they want. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did any research about who I am,
Mm-hmm.
you'd realize I started an event company to get away from this exact thing.
Yeah.
Like literally Impact was started to bring the community together to help and learn about people and then see if you can do business.
Yeah. Yeah. And even
Whereas that's not even, you don't even give a shit about me. You just want my business. It's like,
yeah.
if you just looked online or went to our website, you'd get the understanding that I built a company around not doing what you just did to me.
Yeah, I see that a lot, especially, and you probably do too. If like you get referred to somebody, or like you genuinely want to meet with somebody, and they're like, "Hey, like when you meet, they're like, hey, don't try to sell me anything." I'm like, I'm good without you, buddy. I didn't come here to try to sell you anything, but if you want, sure. But until you tell me, I'm golden. I can work this out on my own.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, you know, in our kind of world, small business owners, entrepreneurs trying to figure it out, own a company or a high level position in a company, right? We all struggle with time,
Mm-hmm.
and we all struggle with defining success and making sure we're devoting enough time to what we think is success. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people realize, and for me, I realize that it's not the dollar,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the money. And if I do it for the money and I remove the heart,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm not going to make any money.
Yeah.
And I've gone through that, and I mean, we had a meeting today with the impact team for this big conference. And I'm like, guys, our messaging isn't coming from the heart. We need to scrap this whole thing and redo it. And part of that was me.
Mm-hmm.
I came off of why I'm doing this conference,
Yeah.
right? I'm not throwing this conference to make money. I'm not throwing this conference for Jim Morris,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, am I going to get up on stage in front of 500 people? I am, right? I've got a lot to say. But I hope it helps people. It's not to make Jim's ego go up or down.
Yeah.
It's literally what I have to say I think is going to help someone.
Mm-hmm.
And if I help one out of those 500 and what comes out of my mouth,
Mm-hmm.
then there's purpose to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to correlate to any profit or
Yeah.
dollar.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you noticed that because you've been egging me on. A lot of people have been egging me on, and to have the conviction to stand up and know that you have something to share is a big deal because, like I said, you've been egging me on. A lot of people have been egging me on. It took a lot for you to get me on this microphone. So, yeah, it's
Brock's like, I can't do it. I'm like, what about tomorrow? What about next week?
yeah,
It's just going to be a fun conversation. Don't
yeah,
worry.
yeah. I don't like the camera nor the microphones.
um, so let's talk a little bit about real estate. You've got some investments. You work with a lot of high profile clients. Like, what's your opinion on real estate as an investment vehicle? What do you think is going to do well? Kind of talk to me about your thoughts and just real estate in general. It can be really anything.
Really anything. Well, to answer your first question, I think it's an incredible investment if done correctly.
Of course.
When I'm, and this is just a personal opinion, but when I'm investing in something, I have three rules, and it's invest in what you know and understand, invest in things that you have a high degree of control in, and don't chase rates of return. And right now, the cool thing to do is invest in syndications. And like yesterday, I got sent one that had over 212 people, or it was 212 people, but it was over 200 people in the syndication. And there are so many degrees of separation in there.
Well, syndication, you don't really have any control unless you're
Yeah,
a GP.
yeah, exactly. And so
Here's my money. I hope you do what you're going to say,
yeah.
and I really can't say shit.
Yeah, unless it's a special investment, if I don't have personal relationships with the people I'm investing with, I typically don't want to do it. And there's
I'm right there with you, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't care how good that rate of return looks.
Yeah.
If I don't trust you,
Yeah.
I don't want you to touch my money.
Yeah, so I think that it depends on where you're at. Like I have one client that he's happy with his 15 doors, where I have another client who he scaled from 0 doors to over 500 doors in like 4 years.
It's crazy.
He loves it. I don't know how he does it. And then I have guys who just want, self-storage, or they just invest in triple net lease properties.
Yep.
And so it's kind of like, okay, well, where do you have the most knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the thing that you're investing in? Who are you investing with? Because at the end of the day, it's the people that you're investing with, not the products. And then what's your overall objective in investing? And I'll pull this statement up. I had
I love this, by the way. I feel like in real estate, no one asks those questions. And a lot of my peers and colleagues that investors come to, a real estate agent, they don't even ask those questions. I've got a client right now. It's literally what we're trying to figure out. It's like, you've got to pick a lane, and it's got to be based on what you know,
Yeah.
who you know, and how you can operate in that lane.
somebody
But
told
I
me-
can't pick the lane for you.
Yeah.
I can tell you there's a great deal on an Airbnb, short-term rental. I can tell you there's a great deal on a long-term, 15-year,
Yeah.
year-to-year lease rental, right? I can give you all the great deals in each avenue,
Yeah.
but I can't give you all the deals in all the avenues.
Yeah, you got to be the one to drink the water. But what I was going through is like right now I've got a couple investments that I'm trying to decide on, and so I emailed one of my mentors. I call them a board of titans. That there's several mentors in my life that they're on that board, and so anytime that I have tough questions or things that I'm going through, I go to them for their advice on it first. And so like last week, I was going through it and on some trying to choose between which investments that I take at where I'm at. And one of them responded and said, "Hey, a decision requires an objective. What is your objective and what is your vision for life?" And I think that's is a big thing that we need to keep in front of us as it comes to in where we're investing and what we're investing in and who we're investing with. And then, you know, he said in the second sentence here, start with the end in mind, work from first principles, and then make decisions that will give you asymmetric returns. And what he's talking about there is the myth of you have to take high risk to get high return, and that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's a lie, and it's to get you into things that you probably are speculating in.
Yeah, I was gonna say to get you into things you're unsure of.
Yeah.
So someone else can make the dollar on your money and not potentially return it back
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
Interesting. There's so many different avenues in real estate, and a lot of people come to me and want to know what's the best avenue. And that's not a decision for me to make as a real estate agent or, a planner, right? Like, let's build the plan.
Yeah.
There's 7,000 more questions I need to ask you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that this is going to be a 2-hour meeting.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I've had people, well, I can't meet for 2 hours. Then you need to find a different real estate agent who's going to half-ass this, because I'm not going half in. I'm going all in. And I need to ask you a lot of questions to devise a plan for you to be successful. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It just, I think it comes back to that. Everybody wants the hack.
Yeah.
Everybody wants it fast. Everybody wants the answer.
Yeah.
If you're investing, there's a level of due diligence you need to do.
Due diligence, the Sasquatch of finance. If you're wanting to get started in real estate investing, yes, there are a bunch of avenues. Wholesaling, Airbnb, single family, house hacking, buying and selling, flipping land, house flipping, which I don't consider flipping houses an investment, but some people want to say it is. Multifamily, commercial, industrial, so many different areas. And after you've figured out what your vision and your objective is, figure out where you're at financially. Like, hey, do I have 6 months of reserve set aside? Do I have an opportunity fund set up to where I could access funds to go get a property? And if I go into a property, what do I want it for? Do I want cash flow? Do I want appreciation? I typically don't buy for appreciation because of it's kind of, you're hoping for the economy.
Well, it's also too. It's not, you can't, if you're gonna buy for appreciation, you need to sell when the market's hot. And if your plan is a 5-year plan and that 5th year the market drops, there is no appreciation.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. That asset needs to be positioned to sell in. Maybe 5 is the goal, but are you okay selling it in 3? Are you okay holding it for 7 or 10?
Yeah. Yeah. And what I talk a lot of times with people is we buy our net worth, invest for cash flow, and then we speculate later. And, if we can cover our bases and become financially free, which is a mindset, I think financially free is a mindset when money is not our first decision maker or our first excuse giver. And so once we become financially free, then maybe it's the standpoint of, hey, we can start speculating. We can start swinging for the fences. And hopefully we'll get to economic independence one day where our assets do fund our lifestyle that we want. And, I think it's going back to that to say, why are we investing in these deals? And, once you have your finances figured out, once you're in a good spot, then you can make your decision to say, all right, this is the route that I'm going in. Because there's this funny little thing that everybody has called the fear of the first home. And you got to jump over that. And it's hard. But once you take it, we have a client that they're older. I typically never take on clients that are older than 55, really 50, but 55. But we took this one guy on, and he was he always wanted to invest in real estate, but he didn't know that he could. So we structured some things around, and he bought 1 property, and then he bought 2, and then he bought 3. And then last night I get another email say, hey, we want to buy 2 more this year. And it just took forever for him to get to the standpoint of saying, hey,
Let's do this.
I could actually do this, and I
Yeah.
can, and I'm now doing it.
So you had mentioned flipping houses isn't an investment. Tell me a little bit about that thought process.
If it was a single house, maybe you could look at it as an investment. But usually when you look at flippers, they're trying to flip multiple houses. And I go to a lot of real estate events. I speak at some of them. And I just kind of watch and listen. But when you're investing, it's a standpoint of where you're getting a return consistently on your money, and a return of your money, not just on your money. But when I look at these guys who say that they are real estate investors and their whole model is flipping, well, in reality, unless they have things that are cash flowing on a regular basis, if they quit tomorrow, the cash flow stops. And so what they really have is a business, not necessarily investments.
Makes sense. So basically, what happens is you're not holding that asset. You're buying it with a plan to then sell it in a short period of time. You're not making any cash flow. It's actually carrying costs to own a flip, right? You still got to pay heat. You still got to pay water, right? The painters can't paint without water. I did this on a flip. I'm like, why do y'all need water? That shit's like $45 a month. They're like, dude, we're painting your house. I'm like, okay.
Who would have thought?
But, you're incurring a monthly cost, and then you're shelling out to the subcontractors the money to fix the home. So essentially, you're not bringing in cash flow. You're not having a reoccurring revenue stream from it. You're just making a chunk profit when it sells.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't sell, now you have an asset that's costing you money with no return for as long as till you sell it.
Yeah.
Or rent it or live in it.
Yeah, I see that a lot. A lot of these groups that I'll go with clients that they set up, they could be wholesalers, or a lot of them flip deals, and they're usually younger, is what I tend to find out. But like right now, they're struggling. It's struggling bad.
The deals that I'm seeing come across are so bad that makes me wonder how bad they're going to lose if they don't move this thing in the next 30 days.
So the way, I always tell people, hey, we need to invest for cash flow first. We can speculate later. But I'm not saying that flipping is bad. It's a bad idea. You shouldn't do it. I'm saying it could have its benefits. Like right now,
you can make 50 grand in 3 months.
Yeah, you could do a quick flip. Like I have some higher net worth clients that they might have 100 grand, 200 grand sitting on the sideline that they just kind of have off to the side, that they're like, you know what, we can go play with this, where we might go use that for a 6-month or a 12-month flip real quick. And yeah, we could increase the dollar amount that we have in our pocket because we know or may know that there's going to be a deal down in the timeline where, yeah, we want a little bit more capital, and we can wait anywhere between 3 to 12 months to get a return of our money.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of people flipping were buying at a poor price, leveraging the market, and selling at a high price. And you can't do that right now. It's the market isn't sustaining it. It's hard, yeah. You're going to get caught, and there's a lot of people getting caught right now.
You got to have money.
Yep.
Got to have money to do that one.
And if you're not, we can go into this whole thing, but you're using hard money at interest only 11%, and then, you're leveraging a rehab loan, from the bank, and, all of a sudden now, where do you sit? You sit, and I need to sell this thing or I'm going to potentially lose $10,000 a month. And you do that for 6 months. Now you just lost 60 grand, and then you take a loss on the sale.
Yeah.
And that 100 is now you're getting 15 back.
Yeah. The being in the bank is really awesome. I'll tell you that.
What are you reading? What's new on the docket? I know we always talk books and development, and what's your go-to right now from a book standpoint?
Yeah, I love reading, as you know. So far this year, I've read a few books. One of them being Budgeting Sucks. One of them being Tools of Titans. Or Tools for Titans, one of the two. It's by Tim Ferriss. Phenomenal book.
That's what you told me about, last time we sat down.
A lot of good nuggets in there. Um, Currently, I'm walking through The Richest Man Who Ever Lived with my clients that I told you about. And during the week, I'm reading The Lifestyle Investor. And, this is probably my fourth or fifth time reading it, but I'm going through it at a much more diligent pace, slower pace, and I'm taking notes and underlining things and dissecting them the way that I
It's
want.
interesting when you read a book as if it was a textbook,
Yeah, it's so
as
much
if you're going to have a test at the end for
so
your
different.
college capstone
So
class, you know?
different. Yeah. And then on the weekends, I am reading Discipline is Destiny for another time. That's a fascinating book talking about discipline.
So you're breaking up your reading schedule based on weekdays and weekends?
Yeah, it's the first time I'm doing this actually. It's kind of,
So you're reading two books at the same time?
yeah.
How you liking it?
Um, I kind of like it because on the weekends, it's more of my leisure time. So I'll wake up on a Saturday and I'll read with no alarm clock. Whereas during the week, I will set an alarm for 30 minutes, and that's how long I have to sit there and read for.
Yeah, makes sense.
Um, and it's the first time I've done it. I don't know if I'll do it again because I like doing one thing at a time. Even with my food, it's just like eat this, and then you can eat this. I think it's the same
So
with
the green
with
beans are going to stay in the corner
yeah.
until the chicken and the mashed potatoes are
Yep.
done?
My chicken strips from Chick-fil-A get eaten first, and then we can touch the fries. Um, so we so yeah, so I'm doing that. I don't know if I'll continue to do it. I probably won't, but
Hey, you
I
got to
like it a
try
lot.
new stuff, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you could have tried this and been like, this is the best thing ever and double your
Mhm.
book consumption over the year.
Yeah. Yep.
Who knows?
Yep. I'm part of the 52 book club.
Nice.
It takes its toll on you.
Oh, it does. It does. I personally had to start small.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have conviction over reading 10 pages a day
Man, it's tough.
because I was trying to read books per quarter,
Mm-hmm.
and that time frame, it just backs up on you, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I've got another 2 months.
Yeah. No.
You can't really read
The
20 books in those two
it
months.
it always people find it funny when they find out how much I read and study now because in school I didn't read, I didn't study. I was once caught skipping Latin class for 3 weeks, um, and I didn't remember like the last time that I read a full book. And then once I got into this field, it was like, oh, I'm no longer reading to study. I'm reading to improve myself and make the money. And one of my favorite books that I read at the beginning of every year is called The Slight Edge. And in there it talks about, just try to read one page a day if you're going to get started. Just read one page because eventually you're going to read one page and then you're going to be like, well, I'm already sitting here, so might as well keep reading. And that for me was the biggest uh, game changer for me was setting a timer for myself of literally 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Like, I cannot do anything else
True.
but look at this page, look at this book until the timer goes off.
Well, you're designing your discipline, which is
Yep.
a
Yep.
is a concept I'm going to speak on later this year.
I like it, yeah.
Which has allowed me to actually accomplish more
Yeah.
things.
Maybe I could use it to get in the gym.
Well, you just got to design it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, discipline isn't as hard as we make it out to be if it's designed correctly. And once you can hit that and find what works, discipline isn't as hard as it seems to be.
Yep. And discipline at the end of the day equals freedom.
True.
So.
True. So you're a young guy, you're a smart guy, you're reading a lot, you're investing, you're working with high net worth clients, high profile clients. How did you get to where you are today at a young age, being so driven and sophisticated and, looking for these resources to help you grow and in fact grow your clients?
Yeah. Tough one. It's a soft spot. But let's see. Um, when so I've been in this for almost a decade, you could say now. And in my short time frame, I have seen two guys extremely wealthy just fall out of nowhere. And when you put in those daily disciplines and you figure out, okay, like, I'm not going to let that be me. And I know you go through this as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you see that and it's ingrained into your head all the time, that is what ends up driving you every day.
Gotcha. So seeing someone that I'm assuming was very important to you lose everything, you don't want to be ever put yourself in that situation.
Correct. Yeah.
And by doing that, you're self-educating, you're staying on top of things, you're disciplined.
Yeah.
You may not be doing all the things that Jim Morris was doing at 24. I can tell you you're not from a stupid, young, immature stage
Yeah.
of my life.
Yeah.
So you're dedicated to that based on an experience that you've seen happen.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
you're emotional about it because I can hear you choked up in your voice. So even to right now, this second where we're having a great conversation, it really hits home.
Yeah. All the time. All the time.
Can I ask who those people were to you? Is that like someone family? Is that best friend? Is that uncle? Like, and you don't have to answer that because it's personal.
Yeah. Yeah. One was a family, and
Okay.
the other was a business partner. So, yeah.
So two people very close to you.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, you don't want to go down that same path.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So that's really your driver.
Yeah.
Now we can go Simon Sinek. Is that your why? I'm someone that says fuck your why, by the way. So
Yeah, I think we could probably leave that out of the conversation. I don't need to talk about whys. I think they're dumb. But nobody, well, if we're talking about our faith, I know what the purpose is of life. But nobody really knows what they know until they know. And so I think that you should go try things and go do things to figure out what your purpose is. Like, I'm really good at what I do, but at the end of the day, do I think this is my ultimate purpose to tell people, hey, you need to save this much money and do this and that? And maybe, I don't know, maybe I have a bigger purpose later on, but I think purposes change and so do whys. I think that it's good to understand other people's whys of why they want to accomplish things, but like at the end of like when I wake up in the morning, if somebody were to ask me, why'd you wake up early to get after it? I'm like, what else are you supposed to do? Like, it's just part of your life. Get up, do the work, do the job. Discipline is destiny. I think that's the title of the book. Maybe I'm getting it backwards now. But I think it's like, if you have a vision, I think that's the one thing that most people lack is a vision of where they're wanting to go. And, on those days where it's cold, you don't want to get out of bed, good. Do something about it. I think I always refer back to Jocko when like things get tough. Good. Gives us something to work on. Good. And I think that's where that's at. And I know that, mental health is a big thing, and there's reasons to why we would want a why. And sometimes you do need a why to get through certain aspects of life and seasons of life. But at the end of the day, it's, as men, I think that we should be leaders, and you got to get up and be a leader each day in and out and understand, hey, I got to provide, I got to be a leader, and I got to better myself in every way that I can.
my opinion on it is the seasonality, right? So if you asked me 2 years ago what my why is, it's complete opposite of what it is today.
Yeah.
If you ask me in 2 years what it is, I think it'll be opposite of what it is today.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because things happen and things change. And if we're just so concrete on one thing, which you can be,
Mm-hmm.
you better be willing to die for it if it's one thing, then that's going to bring you down one path. And I don't want to go down one path. I want to make sure I know if there's a path to the right, what that looks like, if there's a path to the left. I think that if you have an underlying goal of trying to help people and do what's right, and you have guidelines and morals, I think those can play into your why. But I think my exact reason today is going to be different in the next couple of years.
So maybe we could go back and say, yes, whys are important to an extent, but they change with time.
But Sinak's whole thing is finding your why for the rest of your life and your purpose. And I think that's gotten so played out, right? It's like, you're 24, I'm 33. How are we going to define what our why is for the rest of our lives at this age when we haven't even lived a quarter of our life? Like, dude, I'm living to 140. I don't know what y'all are doing, but I'm going to die at 140. That's my number.
Actuarial tables go to 121, so I see it.
But like, I just it's like pouring all your eggs into something that you just don't know if it's the right thing, right? Because to your point, I think you made a great point of like the whole purpose thing. It's like it's all speculation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's how you feel inside, and based on your experiences and life events, that feeling can change.
Yeah.
I think you can change as a person. I changed.
Mm-hmm.
I've dramatically changed
Mm-hmm.
from what I was 10 years ago to what I am, and my why's changed with it.
I think that I don't know. Like for when somebody asks me about what's your why, the only thing I see is Simon Sinek's book, white big red letters, and to me it's kind of like, man, I just get so thrown off with that everybody wants to be like this big audacious world shattering why, and to me it's kind of like maybe it is that we have a little why, and it's because I want to be able to play with my kids. Maybe it's that I don't want my knees to hurt later on. Maybe that it's I want to make more money. And so I think that with that standpoint, maybe whys are important, but little whys. For me, um, one of the best things that I listen to multiple times a year, probably multiple times a month, is "The Strangest Secret" by Earl Nightingale. Fantastic,
That's a
but
good 43 minutes on YouTube in the car.
yeah, I mean
Yep.
it's good. But
You sent that to me, and Ben sent that to me like a minute after. I
yeah,
was like, "Y'all
yeah.
together?" And like, or did you share it to Ben, and Ben
I
shared it to me?
yeah,
Or
about every month I
yeah,
send it out to a bunch of people in my circle, and um what for me, and I showed Jim this, but like every morning I read kind of like a vision of myself in 10 years and in 3 years and then 6 months, and then I have my current goals, and then I have like my life values and principles and rules for how I live my life, and then I've got it written out of what my perfect day is and what I want in my life, beach house, bank account, um,
new Raptor.
a new Raptor, a physically fit body, a watch that I've always wanted. Like seeing those, because then it becomes just part of life, and you know where you're going, and you're speaking it into existence.
The why thing is really just purpose. Like, I think it's gonna change, and I think seasons in life are real, and I think if you aren't growing every day and changing, and your why isn't changing, are you really growing? I mean, I remember when I, first started in real estate, I sat down with the CEO. She interviewed me. I thought it was really cool because no brokerages interview you, they just take you,
Mm-hmm.
or most of them. So I sat down and interviewed with her, and we were talking about my upbringing and like where I'm at and why I want to do this and all that. And she was like, "Oh, that's your why." And she just like told me what my why was, and I was like, "No, this is just reality of what I grew up like. This has nothing to do with why I'm doing real estate."
Yeah.
But it was just this cliche, "Well, that's your why." And I'm like, "It's not my why." Like my parents having drug problems, me growing up with water instead of milk in my cereal, me, watching several friends overdose and die. That has nothing to do with why I want to work so hard. I don't want to be laying on my deathbed at age 140 and look back on my life and say I could have tried harder.
Good. I think it goes back to like, to me, like I had to do a Simon Sinek class in college, and he just rubs me the wrong way. And
He's
I
like, I didn't want to go to that class anyways, and I
yeah
had to do this damn thing with
yeah
him to pass it.
I'm like I listen to the guys that I listen to, and I'm very aware of what I put in my brain and what I don't. Um, so I think in the greater sphere of things, yes, have a why for the season of life you're in, but like the the bigger audacious goal that it's made out to be of having a why kind of rubs me wrong, just because it's like, oh, I have my purpose in life based off my faith. And the one thing that I really like is when Ed Milet, he was like, um, the reason that I get up and do the things that I do is because, when I die, I'm going to meet God and he's going to say, good and well done, faithful servant. Let me introduce you to your potential self. And you should know him emphatically.
That's it, man.
Well,
Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Crushed it out as always. We always have a great conversation.
thanks.
I love diving deeper with you.
Appreciate it.
How can people find you or connect with you or give us
Uh,
some info? How to get a hold of the Brock Fortner?
the Brock Fortner. Probably follow me on LinkedIn. I was big on there for a while, and then I stopped, and I've been asked to kind of step back in and post there, and so you can always find me on there because if I'm not posting, I'm lurking. Um, but if not, you can find me. You can email me, and either I'll get to you or my assistant will get to you. We'll see who gets there first.
Thanks for joining us,
No,
man.
thank you.
Excited to see what you do the rest of the year and continue catching up on every couple weeks with you and pushing each other to be great.
Yeah, let's go be great.
Thanks for
man.
joining, man.